Hi, everybody. I'm just going to give everybody who have already registered just a couple more minutes to join in. I know I said 3 o'clock, but I'll give 1 or 2 more minutes because I think we're missing a lot of people, but we'll get started in just a second. So if you need to get something to drink or something to munch on while we go through this webinar, feel free. We'll get started in about 1 or 2 minutes. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started because I know that everybody's busy these days with managing school and work from home. So let's get started. Hopefully you're in the correct webinar. I did this last week where I was signed up for a webinar and went into the wrong one. This webinar is supporting your student in a remote learning environment. Something that I think is definitely a hot topic amongst us parents out there and also as educators, as we were kind of thrown into this whole new world of remote learning a couple months ago. So that is what we're going to be talking about a little bit today. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Tatone. I am the director of the Hartmann-Eton Center for Teaching and Learning at Eton Academy. For those of you who are new to our Eton community, Eton Academy is a school for students who learn differently. We're located in Birmingham, Michigan. And our center at the school is really designed to help support the greater community. So while Eton is a wonderful school for our students and families that attend, our center really is more community-based, where we go into different schools, different school districts, and provide consultation. We do workshops and we do webinars such as the one today, like I said, for the greater community. We also have a tutoring service through our center. So it's a lot of different options to help support everybody that we can possibly support, again, in our community. Today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this webinar today and how it's going to work. Hopefully, all of you have received my email. I sent out an email this morning that had a resource packet in it. And I'm going to be referring to various resources or tools that I sent in that packet throughout this webinar today. So I just thought it would be nice for you to have that on hand so that you don't just see me holding something up, you can actually see it in front of you and reference it. So again, look for those moments and I'll tell you to refer to your packet every once in a while. The slides that I'm showing you today, I will be sending you after this presentation. So I have all of your email addresses. I will be sending you all of these slides so you don't have to worry about scrambling to take notes or make copies of anything. I will be sending all of that out to you today. In addition, the format of this today, I'm going to have my question and answer box open. So at any time during this presentation, if you have questions or you have comments, I am going to ask you some questions throughout this. So I'd love your feedback. Please feel free to go ahead and just type those in the Q&A box. And I will try to get to as many of the questions as I possibly can while just keep being mindful of the time. If I don't get to your question, I will respond to you personally via email after the presentation. So I just want you to know if it's something has not been addressed and you're thinking, well, I did send that, I will respond to you. I'm going to do my very best, though, to respond to everybody's questions and comments through the presentation. So without further ado, let's talk a little bit about what we're going to talk about in today's workshop. What we'd really like to do, first of all, is just talk about what is a remote learning, just define it a little bit and explore what remote learning has meant to all of us over these, again, past, I think this is week 8 for many of us of being home. What does that all mean? What are our responsibilities in terms of remote learning, both as educators, as parents, as students? What are the various roles and responsibilities that we have? And then after that, we're going to look at some simple steps for remote learning success. So what are some of the things that we can do to support our students at home as they're going through this remote learning process? For the educators that are listening, this is really, hopefully, these will be some helpful tips and tools that you can present to your families, to present to your parents. And if parents are listening in, hopefully these are some things that you can implement tomorrow. And then finally, we're going to do a wrap up, and I'll answer some of the questions that you have about anything that I presented today. So let's get started. First of all, what is remote learning? So remote learning really is providing education to students without them being physically present at school. And I think that's the very best definition that I have found. It's what we've all been thrown into, as I said, was it Friday the 13th, March 13th, when all of this started to happen. This can also be called virtual learning, at home learning, online learning, distance learning. There are so many terms being thrown out there, but it's all the same thing. It's our students are now at home, and we are responsible for managing the pieces of their learning that are coming to us through either their schools, their teachers, etc. The two bullets that I have in red, I think, were the things that stood out to me the most when I was doing research. It was very startling to me. That approximately 6%, that is the percentage of students in the state of Michigan that took part in virtual, online, remote learn, whatever term you want to use. We're going to use remote today. That's the percentage of students that were taking part in remote learning prior to all of this taking place. So prior to March 13th. I say approximately because most states, including the state of Michigan, have not done a really good job of keeping track of that data for K through 12 students. College students, different story. But for K-12, and that's really what I'm talking about today, they're guesstimating about 6% had some sort of online class. And for the parents that are listening, I want you to think about your own children and your family. If you have high schoolers, middle schoolers, how many of your high schoolers have taken part in an online class? It's interesting to me because, again, from the research that I've been reading, the majority of the students that have taken part in any type of remote learning in the past have either been students that need accelerated classes or students who are taking them for remediation. It was just, like I said, very interesting. Even more interesting is that second number that I presented to you, which is 100%, because that is the current percentage of students that are taking online or remote learning or having remote learning experiences now. And that, like I said, when I started doing all this research, it kind of took my breath away because, again, we all were sort of thrown in this together. It was a little bit comforting too, I have to say, as an educator and as a parent, that this is a new world for all of us. So again, I just wanted to throw those numbers out there to give us some perspective. The other piece to this is that online or remote learning may look vastly different based on where your student attends school. I know for a fact I have my own children at home. They go to 3 different schools, and all 3 schools are doing, or their remote learning plans are a little bit different. Even within the same district, from an elementary level to a high school level, it's very, very different based on the school that your child goes to. And I'm sure that a lot of parents out there can relate to that as well. There are vastly different expectations for different grade levels, for different, like I said, schools. So it's a little bit different for everybody right now. And I think that we, as parents, as educators, have to be comfortable with that. I want to also take a look at something that, again, I've been thinking about is, all right, in this world of remote learning that is so different to all of us, what are some of the responsibilities that each of us have in terms of supporting our students and in supporting remote learning? So what I did is I really sat down and again, did some research, and from what I have found, it's just globally for educators, students, and parents to be actively engaged in whatever remote learning experience is being provided right now. So for educators, specific responsibilities is just to provide a connection to school for students. I cannot tell you the first couple of weeks that we started, I don't even want to say started remote learning, but we knew that our students were going to be home for a little bit, and that was after March 13th. My son, my little one, I have a first grader, his teacher was just having, at that time it was Zoom, they were on Zoom together, now they're Google Meet, but it was just for them to see her face. And it was a connection to school. It was nothing academic. It was just a space for them to talk, and she would read them a story. It's just for educators providing that connect for students. In addition, now, again, as we move a little bit further into what we're doing, it's now instructing and guiding our students in understanding whatever online learning platform that they're using. That's another big hurdle, I think, for many parents, for many students, and for many educators, is now all of a sudden we were responsible for learning some online platforms that maybe we weren't familiar with in the past. Google Meet, Google Chat, Zoom. These were all things that we needed to not only learn ourselves, but also help to support our students and parents in using. Also for educators is just to engage and support students through their online lessons and activities, and to provide that one-on-one support, both academically and that emotional support. For students, I think that if we think about their responsibilities, it's really just to connect with the teachers in the school community, to keep that connection going. And for our students to process, understand, and utilize the online learning platforms. That bullet in and of itself, there's a lot there, just to understand how to connect online and where to go for your classes and what to do. You also have the responsibility for the student to engage and participate and learn through these online activities and lessons that are being provided through their various schools. Also, developing new organizational systems to support work completion. No longer are our students able to, have the support that they have, the one-on-one support with their teacher at school, but it's through, again, an online conversation, and then having to manage and develop a system at home that works for them. And then lastly, for our students to advocate for help when it's needed. And we're going to talk a little bit about advocacy later on. And then finally, for parents, and I know many of you tuning in, you are parents. It's for us to encourage, and I'm including myself in that category as a parent, to encourage our students' connection to school, to really, again, get them online when it's time to be online with their teacher and connect with their peers. To provide support to help guide our students in completing and participating the online learning and activities. And again, for us parents, it's helping with that organization and those systems of management, and also the content that's being presented to them. And then finally, connecting with students with outside additional support if needed. Our students are in this world, again, of having all this information presented to them, and sometimes the support needs to come from outside the home. I don't think it's any different than during a typical school year when students are physically at a school. Sometimes students have a little bit of a hard time listening to mom and dad as teacher. So when there's additional outside support needed or necessary, maybe it's just another person, an outside view who can lend some support, then we as parents have to connect with that person. And again, we'll talk a little bit about that a bit later. So I'm looking at all those responsibilities. In that Q&A box, as I was saying before, does anybody want to share what remote learning has looked like for you, either as a parent or as an educator? You can feel free to type in if you would wish. I know that for me, I obviously am an educator and I'm also a parent. It has been definitely a learning curve in our house. As I said, I have a first grader. I also have an 8th grader and I have a senior. So our learning plans and our remote learning has looked quite different for each child that I have. And I will say that it has looked different weekly because we have had to sort of change what we're doing, change our schedules, change our weekly calendars based on things. It's just trial and error. This worked, this didn't work. We're going to keep going with this, and we're gonna modify that. And we've all sort of had to be comfortable with those changes. So I'm going to keep going. If anybody again wants to type anything in, please feel free, and I will definitely, and I will confidentially, I will not say your name if you type anything in, so that we can just share with everybody. So the things that I try to keep in mind with remote learning and everything that I just said is that it really is new to everybody. It's new to teachers, parents, and students. And that we need to be okay at home with our children, that our students' school days are not going to look like they did when it was February, when they were in school physically. I will say, and I'm going to throw myself under the bus, that I think in the beginning I was trying so hard to make it seem like I could provide that school experience as much as possible while my son, especially for my little one, was at home. And for you parents that work, I will say that's challenging and I have to say all parents work, every single one of us work. So, it was very challenging for me to try to make it to make it a school experience for my child. And I had to say, you know what, it's not going to be exactly the same, and I'm okay with that. It also has, someone has commented who was participating that it's flipped the way that they think about teaching. And I could not agree more that it really has opened my eyes to teaching, which is amazing. So I don't know. I've come up with the thinking, the logic that there isn't a one-size-fits-all model for what remote learning looks like at home. That every single person I've talked to, whether it's been colleagues, whether it's been good friends of mine who are educators and parents, or just good friends of mine that aren't in education, every single model that they've shared with me has looked different. And what the conclusion I've come to is that's great. That's amazing. Share. Talk to each other, because again, I don't think that there's a one size fits all model. There shouldn't be. It's the model that works best for your home. But in saying that, we're going to talk today about a couple steps that you can take with any model that you're using. These steps, I think, are simple steps that will help your student be successful with their at-home or remote learning. So let's get started with that. The first step that we're going to talk about is really organizing your students' new school environment, which of course is your home. And we're going to talk a little bit about the day, what organizing the day looks like. I think that we had a strict rule in my house that when my kids came home and they did their homework, that homework was not to be done in bedrooms, number one. All homework was really done in our kitchen, because I was always in there and I could help. And it was just an easy space for everybody to be in. Since we've all been in quarantine, and we have my husband and I both working, and then the 3 kids at school, the kitchen is no longer a really good space for school, for them to do their schoolwork. The kitchen is actually where I'm at right now, and it's very quiet because everybody's been kicked out. But normally it's the loud space. It's people are getting snacks and drinks and whatever. So we've really had to step back and say, okay, what is our new school space for each person? I have to say my house is not that big, but I did throw away the no bedroom rule with my senior. She does do her work successfully. She has a desk in her room. She has her computer, everything set up at her desk, and that's where she goes because it's quiet. My 8th grader prefers being in the basement. Our basement has a space where he has his computer, etc. So have those conversations with your family about what space works best for them, that has the few distractions that can help them be successful in what they're completing. The second thing that I realized I really needed to make sure, this was after week 2, when I constantly was getting the question, Mom, I need a pencil, Mom, I need this, Mom, I need that, is making sure that supplies are handy. And that's not just for younger students, that's for all ages. I will say this, for my 1st grader, I'm going to show you the supply box. So he did bring his supply box home from school. That was just like the one that was in his desk, or it was the one that was in his desk. But you can purchase these. I think you can even order them from the dollar store online. This is perfect for my 1st grader. He keeps his pencils, his pens, his dry erase markers or whatever in here, and it's always next to him. Perfect solution. It works great. And no more, Mom, I need a glue stick. Mom, I need scissors. It's awesome. It's in his little workspace that he's in. For older students who might not necessarily have a supply bucket, this was my out of the box thinking. Yes, this is an ice bucket, just an ice bucket that you may have in your home. And if you look inside, I just put a bunch of supplies in it for my older students. So again, same things, glue sticks, pens, pencils, markers, scissors, etc. Everything is in their handy dandy ice bucket that is now a supply bucket. And I love the fact that there's a lid. We can just put the lid on it and everything stays in one place. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this in a second, but keep in mind I can also ring a resource, little resource ring on the side of it. So ice buckets work really, really well. Again, if you have any questions about anything that I'm talking about, please feel free to just chime in. So again, I'm going to ask this question. What does your students' remote school day look like? So we've talked a little bit about organization, but in general, what has your students' school day been like the actual schedule? And I just had a parent chime in that it's been really hard to keep up. And I would have to agree that it's definitely been hard to keep up with everything. But if anybody wants to just talk a little bit about what the day looks like from the minute they wake up to, you know, the day when the school day ends, that would be great. You can just type that in. Again, I know for my family, I've been trying very, very hard to keep them on a schedule. So getting up at the same time every day is really beneficial. I've tried to make sure, especially for my little one, that, and actually my 8th grader, my poor senior, I think she's pretty much on her own, but she's fine. She's doing great. But my 8th grader and my 1st grader, it's been really important to have a set schedule every single day. One of the things that I noticed is having a set schedule every day, just the importance of making sure that you stay to that schedule. And, you know, making sure that if there are any changes in the schedule, just like that we do at school, that we, you know, we let them know, etc. So I'm going to give people a couple more seconds if they'd like to submit a question or submit a response to this. And that would just be if you click on the top of your screen, the Q&A will pop up. There's a little Q&A dialog box. If you just click on that, you can type a question in that Q&A. So while you're typing in, I wanted to share with you that this data that I had, which is pretty remarkable. If you take a look, these are the recommended school day hours that I had found. It was interesting because this was sent out to the school district that my kids go to school and 2 of my students go to school, and this was sent out to us. And then in doing more research, I actually found this in numerous newspaper articles and websites. And I thought, I was really, actually as a parent, I was really messing up on this time. What they're saying is that the recommended instructional time per day for each student is listed in that, that second column, the recommended instructional time column. And again, I'm going to share with you the first grade perspective, 45 to 60 minutes a day of instructional time. And that's not a lot of time if you think about it. But if you know, as I kind of put my educator hat back on, and I realized, yeah, that it makes sense. If we think about all of the different transitions that take place within the course of a school day, 45 to 60 minutes of instructional time per day for a first grader is significantly lower, we know, than what they would have when they're physically present in the school. However, them being able to sustain attention and actually pay attention to what's going on, their attention spans are short. We have to remember that. So when I was creating the schedule the first week, I realized that number one, my first grader was getting very, very frustrated with me because I had activity upon activity upon activity upon activity that were all really instructionally based. They were academic, very heavy instruction based. And so what I did was say, okay, you know what? I don't think that that's going to work. We have to come up with a schedule that is a little bit more kind, just to say the least. It's more developmentally appropriate for him and more manageable actually as a family for all of us. So when we think about organizing the day, again, I said creating a consistent visual schedule for the school day that's developmentally appropriate for your student, and reflecting back to that chart that I just showed you, ensuring that, you know, now what I think and what I focus on is I take a look at what the teacher's sending or what the school is sending, and then say, okay, am I really focusing on reading, writing, and math? All the other things I infuse here and there, but if I really hone in on those 3 areas, that will account for 45 to 60 minutes a day. Social studies and science, we do some fun activities in there. And if you take a look, I'm going to click on the schedule. I think this is also in your resource packet that I sent to you this morning in the email. The daily schedule looks a little something like this, where, you know, waking up at 7:30 every single day has been really, really helpful. The school day beginning, and then have a little bit of math. Now, when you say math class at 9 o'clock, that in no way, shape, or form means 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock for a full hour is math. The Google Meet, that would indicate that's for a student who maybe has a Google Meet class. If that school is doing Google Meet, I know a couple schools are doing actual classes, but I put that column in there just as pretend for a student. But as you can see, we have math, we have reading, and then movement breaks. Very, very important also to take breaks. Again, I was thinking when I was putting together the schedule for my little one and even my 8th grader, they have these moments of change. My 8th grader changes classes. My 1st grader has his moments of going outside for recess. So infusing all of those moments in your home is really important for the students. And we're going to talk a little bit about ideas for that so that it's not mom, dad, I'm stuck, mom, dad, I'm done. What they can do independently to do those breaks and have those breaks. Again, I did give you this. Hopefully you see it in your packet. And then at the bottom of it, it says 2 of the activity jars below. We're going to talk about that in 1 second. But again, these are really about taking those breaks, making sure that we're infusing breaks in with our students. Okay. The other thing that I want to talk a little bit about in terms of scheduling is a timer. And again, this is something that we use a lot in classrooms as educators. And it's something that I really strongly urge us as parents to start using at home. This has really helped me as a parent, just make sure that we're not spending too much time on a particular activity. I don't want any of my students to burn out. So we've really been very mindful of how long we're spending on each activity that's in our schedule. For example, this morning, I told my little one that he had to do his reading and we were going to do 15 minutes of reading today. And we set the timer, and he was very upset with me because we were in the middle of a chapter when the timer went off. But I said, that's okay, we'll finish the sentence and we'll pick right back up where we left off. But just being mindful of making sure that we're staying on task and we're keeping track of time again, so that we're not burning our little ones out. And even our big ones will burn out as well, right? And if you have any questions, just feel free to type them in. You know what, I do want to mention this because someone had just brought this up and it's a great suggestion. To use an outline, just a blank outline, and having the child and have the opportunity to fill in blanks for the scheduling. I will say this, I love that idea. I think any child should have be a part of making the schedule for the day. I will show you, and I'm really happy whoever had that statement brought that up. This, and I'm gonna kind of put it in so you can see it, but this little whiteboard has been magic at my house. The daily schedule, the paper daily schedule, has been great with my 8th grader, not so much for my 1st. Each day when my 1st grader, Nico, when he wakes up, the date is already on, but we talk about all of the various things that he can do, and he does help me create that schedule for the day, and it has been amazing. Because he feels as though he has some say in it. And there are some times where he'll say something and go, why don't we save that for tomorrow? And that's fine too. But I love that. I think that having the child be part of all of this and having the opportunity to help with the schedule is a definite. So thank you whoever made that suggestion. That's amazing. So another thing that I want to talk about with organizing the day is determining a plan when your student says that they're stuck or they're done. This has been a big piece to what's going on in my house. What we've started to do, we've started to create support resources for all of my children, actually. And if you take a look, this is also in the resource packet that I sent to you. We've created the I'm Stuck plan. And what we have done, and I'm going to show you while I'm holding this up, is we've actually created a resource sheet so that if my child gets stuck and not knowing what to do, that the first instinct is not to say, Mom, I'm stuck, Dad, I'm stuck. Because we were getting a lot of that. I have to tell you, I don't think I've ever sat up and sat back down and sat up. The first 2 weeks I was up and down constantly for my computer to help. And I said, this isn't going to work. So why don't we come up with a plan to say, all right, what are the steps we're going to take to get the question answered that you may have? First is check your resource sheet. So the resource sheet, if you scroll down, or not scroll down, flip through your page, I'm going to scroll down. I actually created a support people and contact information sheet for him. So if he is stuck, for example, on math, he has listed in his I'm Stuck plan, his math teacher's name, the math teacher's email address, and his math teacher has office hours on particular days of the week and times available. He knows that if he's stuck during one of those times, he can reach out to his math teacher. The second person he can reach out to is we've come up with a friend from each class that he could get on either Google Chat through their email address, or he's actually been texting his friends because he's a little bit older, and they can go back and forth and try to problem solve together. That has been a beautiful, beautiful thing. And again, it's part of the I'm Stuck plan. If the teacher isn't available, you move on to step 2, which again is what I just said. It's your buddy. Call your buddy. Ask your buddy for some help. If your buddy is unavailable for help, you go on to step 3, which is mom or dad's schedule. And if you'll notice that the support people and contact information, I have mom and dad listed, but then I also have times available. This has been for us parents at home that are juggling everything, everything that's going on in our world. I've actually said, these are times that mom is available to help support with any questions that you may have, and dad is available. Now, for my little one, this actually, I do have this little process for him too, although I don't say times available for mom or dad. He can ask questions, but because he'll forget. But I will say for older students, for 5th and up, I would say that having times available to say, okay, mom is doing this right now, but these are the times that you can reach out and mom can help you. I also said that if you can't get a hold of mom or dad, highlight what you need help with, and then remember to go back to them, make sure that we're checking back in with each other. This little resource has been a lifesaver. And when I talked to you about the organization, this little bucket of organized supplies, this is what I was talking about. These are the resources that I've hooked on the ring right on the supply bucket. So if they do have questions, if my kids do have questions or they forget the process or who they can contact, all of their contacts are right hooked onto this bucket. And again, it's been a lifesaver. Even when my son will say, Mom, I have a question on, I'll say, did you go through your I'm Stuck plan? Oh, you're right. Hold on, let me see. And I'm not kidding. At this point, 90% of the time, either his teacher or a friend can help and support him. Teaching our students how to advocate and problem solve, which is amazing. The other thing that we started doing are activity jars, and that is, I'm going to reference back to at the bottom of the little daily schedule. I talked about activity jars. I got this idea from, I believe, the Board of Education in Illinois, and I loved it, and we've already implemented it at my house. So what we have are little activity jars in my house. Each color represents the topics that you can see there. So green is environment, blue is spirit. I have no idea how I found these jars in my house that actually had the same colors, but I did. And what we do Sunday night is we actually put little pieces of paper with activity ideas in each jar. And if my kids get done with something early, they have kind of some leftover time. It's not, Mom, I'm bored, I'm done, I don't have anything to do. It's, you know what, I'm going to go to an activity jar and I'm going to choose an activity to do. And it ranges anywhere from environment, like cleaning up your room, or I'm going to journal write. I'm going to, we have a quarantine journal going on in this house where everybody's doing a daily quarantine journal post. But they know that there's an activity that they can choose from. And Mom, if you tell Mom that you're bored, Mom is going to tell you, go take a look at one of the activity jars and choose from an activity jar. Our goal in our household is that you have to choose an activity from at least 2 of the activity jars a week. It's a really easy goal. My kids have loved these jars. And again, they're a part of this. They're the ones coming up with it. So the ideas that are in the jar, we all make the ideas together, and they've had a lot of fun with it. and it keeps them engaged. It keeps them engaged and it keeps them busy. So step 2, now that we're talking about having our day organized and being organized at home, step 2 is really just staying connected and coming up with different ways that our students can stay connected with their school, their friends, etc. Again, if you'd like to type in the Q&A how your student is staying connected with their school right now. I know that, like I said, many schools are doing some version of remote learning where teachers are face-to-face with the kids. Some schools, they're just emailing or typing messages back and forth. But I think it's been kind of nice. For educators that are on, can you tell us a little bit about how you're staying connected with your own students that are remote learning in their homes? If anybody wants to type in, that would be great. I'll give you a couple seconds to do that. Oh, I have someone here that said that, oh, this is awesome, that they are doing, every day they're meeting and they're doing lunch with the teacher. So every day at noon they meet and have lunch together, and the kids have to come with a joke of the day, which is so cute. Oh, that's awesome. So just a way to connect. It's really cool. If anybody else wants to chime in, they can. So some of the things that we recommend just to stay connected is to really support your students at home in attending their remote classes. I have had quite a few friends tell me that it's been very difficult to keep their child engaged and logging in. And I think that for parents, that's the schedules, creating the daily schedule so that the student is attending those remote classes, that it's something that they know Monday through Friday. It's no different than if they were in physical school. They have a schedule to follow and their teachers are eagerly waiting to see their faces and to meet with them. So really making sure that we're supporting the students in attending their classes. I also recommend, I brought home my son's assignment sheets that he uses. He used an assignment book, but I gave you as a resource in your packet these assignment sheets. And I highly, highly recommend that these sheets are used still. In the beginning, again, and I'm referring to my own son, I was not the best at reminding him to fill these out. And this is just what he has to do for school that day. In the morning now, what he'll do is he'll have his assignment sheet in front of him and either fill in what he already knows he has to do, or after live classes with his teachers, he'll write down what his assignments were. This has been so incredibly helpful in, number one, keeping him connected with everything that's going on. Because I will tell you, he would log off after meeting with his teacher and he's home. So he'd say, oh, I'm done with that class. And he'd run off and do whatever because he's home and not in the physical school building. Whereas this has actually helped him, like, oh, you know what? I have an assignment that I need to do for that class. I'm going to finish that up, or I have to do these assignments. So again, just as if you would use a planner or an assignment book during the school year, this has been really, really helpful to use at home. And I really suggest using it. In addition, in terms of staying connected, it's really, really important that we try to incorporate activities that keep our kids connected with their teachers and friends. And I know that this has been so incredibly difficult for our kiddos on a social and emotional basis. For the first time, it's funny because I never in a million years would have thought that my 8th grader would tell me that he missed school. He loves his friends and he loves his school, but missing school is a little bit different. And we were out for a walk yesterday and he said, I just want to go back to school. And I said, well, why? Why all of a sudden? This is like, we're heading into week 8. I do too, but I was curious. And he said, I just miss talking to them, like seeing their faces and talking to them and being connected with them. And that actually, it was 2 things that popped in my mind when he said that. Number one, I need to do a better job of just reaching out and doing some things to keep them connected, whether it's Zoom meetings or Google Meets, or whatever, something that they can connect with each other. What we decided last night to do is surprise letters. And I think this is a really fun thing to do for any age, whether it's a little guy all the way up to high schoolers. We decided we're going to start writing letters to people that we miss. It's a little bit just to eliminate the technology piece of it, and bring it back to just letter writing, receiving something in the mail. For my senior, she decided that her letter writing, she was going to write thank you letters to all of her teachers that she's had and her principal, just thanking them for everything over the course of the past 4 years that she's had in high school. My 8th grader is no different. He's transitioning to a school, so he wanted to write thank yous to his teachers, and I thought that was an awesome idea. We also, as a family, and I have these over here, we've been leaving surprise gifts around, so we are not, it's social, we're social distancing, but my family has been rock painting, and I'm sure you've all seen like these cute little rocks on TV. People are talking about rock painting, and this is something that even my senior in high school has been doing with us, but we have been painting rocks and then leaving them for friends and family all over the place. We've also been doing pictures. Just my little one has been painting pictures or drawing pictures and leaving them. Anything that we can do to just kind of brighten someone's day, we are. So rock painting is a good thing. I talked a little bit about virtual parties. I am a big fan of I'm getting together with my own friends once a week. We have a standing date Wednesdays at 8 o'clock where we all just kind of sign on and see each other's faces. I think it's really important for our kids to have that too. If we can arrange that with their friends, if the classrooms, it's a great way for our kids to just, as my first grader said, he gets to see his class and he misses his class. It's just a great way for them to connect and stay connected. And then finally, the car parades. I have seen so many amazing things on Facebook about these little car parades that go on for birthdays or for special occasions. And I was talking actually with our head of school at Eton today and a bunch of our other coworkers. And I had said, I don't know why we're saving car parades for just special occasions. We could just do a surprise parade just to see each other, right? So, get a group of people together and say, okay, today we're going to go by Sam's house and tell Sam's mom, and it's just to say hi and wave out of the car, and they get that social distancing, but face to face, not through technology, just to say hello and stay connected. And you get that emotional warm fuzzies that I think we're all craving right now. So I think all of those would be fun ideas. If you have any ideas also that you have been doing with your own family to help them stay connected, again, will you please drop them in the Q&A? I will share them out with everybody when I send the slides at the end of this presentation. I think that the more ideas we have, the better. So please share. The final step. So we went through organizing the day, and we went through just staying connected. The final step, I think, and it's a little one, but it's really important, is just embrace the hurdles. There will be hurdles in this whole remote learning process. And I love this quote. When we long for life without difficulty, remind us that oaks grow strong under contrary winds and diamonds are made under pressure. And, we're under a little bit of pressure right now. There's a lot going on. But I think that what's most important is for us to just embrace what's happening, and just understand that there are going to be hurdles each and every day. Sometimes they're little ones, sometimes they're bigger ones. I think that somebody just shared with me on this question that I just put up, and I thank you for sharing, that one of the biggest hurdles that they've had during this time of remote learning is just juggling what their typical day used to be as a parent and what their day looks like now with their student at home. And that's so incredibly true. You know, it's all of a sudden being mom, dad, teacher, and trying to separate those times of I'm mom or dad and I'm teacher, or, you know, just all of it, just balancing all of it. And I think that the best things that we can do is share with each other these strategies, the different strategies to use to help keep our kids organized, help them stay organized, help ourselves stay organized. Um, I never knew how much I would rely on a schedule. I thought I was I just told my husband this the other day. I said, I used to think we were really busy prior to all of this, juggling after school events, and I started laughing. I said, that was nothing compared to what we juggle right now on a daily basis. I think it's just helpful for everybody to know, I hate to say like stay in their lane, but know their lane, for everybody to understand their lanes, and overcome those hurdles together. I think that the things that I try to remember, and for all of us to try to remember, is that this learning curve that we're in right now is really steep for teachers, for parents, for students, for all of us. And that I think we need to accept that we're going to have bumps in the road, and that's okay. That's so okay. I felt terrible last week when I didn't record a story for my son's class. I completely forgot about it. And we have to be okay with that. We have to be okay that mistakes are going to be made and and assignments are going to be forgotten about. If your child's in a remote learning situation where assignments are given every day, we're going to have oops moments or moments of confusion as parents. And again, that's okay. We need to really, I think, model for our students, and just remember to model for ourselves too, to use our resources. You know, I joke that this little resource section is for my son, but it's for me too, that I have to remember I have resources as well. If I'm stuck as a parent on an assignment that I'm trying to help or understand with, I need to be able to reach out, and I know that I can reach out to people, and I have to keep that in mind. And the final thing, you know, I really want to emphasize is to embrace this time. I think that we need to embrace this time to love, to laugh, and to learn together. And as I said to my husband, I've tried to laugh. It's some of these things that are happening on a day-to-day basis. We've tried to giggle together and say, oh my gosh, that was a little bit of a parenting fail, but that's okay. I'm also trying to be very, very thankful of this time that I have with my three littles at the house, where we'd never in a million years had this much time together, but taking walks and really talking about things, and just embracing that. I do have some questions that I want to just answer and address before we're done. I had one participant state that the motivation factor is really, really difficult with her middle schooler. Let's see here. The online school is a little bit tough because it's not as action packed as being live. And that not much is required of her to move on to the next grade. And thank you so much for bringing this up, because I actually have been sent quite a few emails about this, the motivation, and the fact that, and our district is one of them, that has chosen to go credit versus no credit. And that's pretty much it. If you do it, you get credit. And I think that your struggle is a common struggle right now with many parents in terms of just motivating their students to do things. I will say this, and it's funny because I had a friend of mine say, well, it's really teaching our students to not have to, that they can't rely on external motivators, that they're more internal. And I giggled and I said, okay, but they're still kids. They're still kids. And that's really tough. That's very, very tough. I will say that my kids and I have really come up with rewards for ourselves, reward systems for ourselves. So what I mean by that is, like each week there's a couple things that my husband and I choose, or that kids choose, that they really, really want to do with us, that it's kind of special. And it's just with mom or just with dad, and it's just them, not brothers and sisters, just them. The one example is my little wanted to bake banana bread with me. And I don't bake, so that's a really big thing. For those of you who know me out there, I really don't bake. So that was a big thing in my household. But we had said, like, I had sat down with him and I said, all right, well, mommy has to finish this, this, and this. It's going to be hard for me to finish, but for my work, I have to do that. Let's look at what you have to do for your work. And in that, yeah, it's tough. But we also talked about when we are going through that, what is mom looking for? So what are our expectations? It's, that you're paying attention, that you do the assignment with really, our big thing is really nice handwriting so that it's legible, you've taken your time, because if you don't, then that's not really worth to go to have a reward for that. It's putting in those little extra layers of something to look forward to. So you're going to do this and we have something to look forward to. And again, we do this, my husband and I do it each week, where there are things that we pick and choose, that the kids pick and choose that they'd like to do. Maybe a special bike ride somewhere that you haven't gone before. We have a pond by us where we go and we, visit the fish and the ducks and whatever, but it's again, they're the little motivators. I will say this too, I'm concerned about our students, our children's just emotional well-being during this time. Again, we just talked about how they're away from friends, they're away from teachers, we're away. And we know that when we're feeling down or when we're feeling sad, it's really, really hard to motivate to do things that you don't necessarily want to do. So while we can't plan vacations and while we can't plan, big events, what we can do is plan these little things that mean a lot. I will say I've stepped out of my mom controlling, my little controlling personality in my house. My daughter had said, Mom, I really want to redecorate my bedroom. And that's one of the motivators in my house right now is, okay, well, if we do X, Y, and Z, let's start thinking about how we're going to do that and what it's going to look like and what we need to do. And so it's things to look forward to. And I know this is really, really difficult, but I think that those are the things that we need to do. Does anybody else have any questions before I move on and just end? I think we are almost at 4 o'clock. So I'll just close out, but if anybody else has anything to add, you can definitely add in. I want to thank everybody for being here today. Hopefully you walk away with just a couple of tips that you can use with your children at home. For teachers, for educators that are out there, I'm really hoping that you can walk away and share some of these things that I shared with you today with your parents. I know this is definitely a time for all of us that's been truly difficult. However, I have, as an educator, learned so much about at-home learning and just the importance of, like I said, keeping a schedule. That's step one, making sure you're organized, that there's a space, that there are supplies, that there's a schedule, and that we're all staying connected together. That I've learned so much about that, and I think it's really been beneficial for my own family. And I hope that some of the ideas that I presented today will be beneficial for yours. I don't see any other questions. So, oh, wait, I do see one more question, so I'm gonna. You're welcome. It was more of a thank you. You're welcome. I'm so happy all of you could join me today. Because you have submitted your email addresses, what I will do is make sure that you are staying up to date on some of our upcoming webinars that we're going to have. We have quite a few that are coming your way. And so I'll just send you that information when it becomes available. And thank you. I thank all of you for joining me. I send out so many wishes of good health. Stay safe, stay well, and hopefully I'll see you on the next webinar. Bye, everybody.